feeling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay. Living in the digital age. No thanks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No thanks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off, servers. Good morning from paradise. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick, the Crypto Hitman. And if you guys are still here listening, watching the show, and engaging, well, you've just survived one of the biggest drawdowns in Bitcoin's history in a single day. 14% a day. We'll put that in some historical context for you guys and explain how we survive going forward, psychologically, financially. We've been through these many, many times. This is when you want to lean into some more experienced heads, I would think. We'll also dig into some of the theories behind why the crash happened, what they are not telling you. Maybe a little conspiracy, maybe a little tinfoil hat stuff, or maybe it's legit real. Kind of scary or maybe reassuring, depending on how you look at it. And then we got some low-cap gems to cover for you guys too, because the trenches don't slow down just because Bitcoin shits the bed. Especially if this was the final capitulation. We started an uptrend here, which is, fingers crossed, what I'm hoping for. All right, but let's take a little emotional wellness check before we get into some of the analytics. How did you survive, Nick, yesterday? How did you make it through the day? By the way, I think you're muted.
Let's see. Yep, there's the mic. I don't know. You're talking about gems here. That's got me excited. I mean, it wasn't a great day. I think we're gonna pull it up. It was one of the biggest days in the past, biggest down days in the past decade for Bitcoin, and they're in the top 10, which is never a good sight. Obviously, we had the 10-10 liquidity crisis send things lower. Then we had gold and silver and Greenland FUD sending things lower, and then we had the Epstein FUD. How is that even FUD? I don't know. But that did evidently help push things even lower again. On the back of stock markets having a couple-day reset, gold and silver absolutely plummeting. We're going to talk about silver. Silver went to new lows, kind of mirroring what Bitcoin did. Bitcoin hit 60,000 and silver hit $60, if you can believe that. Remember, silver topped out right where? Around $126. Kind of interesting. You lose the zeros, and silver and Bitcoin chart have been almost the same off the top high levels.
What's funny about the silver crash, too, real quick, silver dumped 50% in a matter of days. Bitcoin, at least it took us about 6 months, right? You know, from the October high to where it ended up. So, you know, if you want to complain about volatility, if you want to complain about downside risk, well, then I think everyone should be calling silver a scam if you think Bitcoin's a scam. But that's neither here nor there. Neither are scams. Market corrections happen, guys. What I like about Bitcoin better than silver, by the way, is they can always make and find more silver. Not the case with Bitcoin. So true finite supply when it comes to Bitcoin, at least the underlying assets, the derivatives, that's a different story, and I'm sure we'll get to that today. But it's been a challenging last few 6 months. All I could do when the market nuked yesterday was sit back and laugh. If you've been around long enough, first of all, your cost basis is still so much lower than it is even now that you're up tremendously. So I take that all with a grain of salt. The second thing, look, you can kick yourself. Hindsight's 2020. I should have sold higher. I should have been smarter. I should have done this, that, the other. Well, you probably didn't. Selling at the lows is not an option in my opinion. So I will continue to just hodl it out, wait for all-time highs. I know everyone's probably thinking to themselves, well, Crypto Amaru, it's going to take 100% gainer to get back to previous all-time highs. Yeah, so what? That can happen in 3 months, 6 months. Even if I have to wait a year, so be it. Still going to outperform pretty much all my other investments in the normal markets. So it is what it is, guys. Hang in there. It's going to be fine. Just hodl on.
We got AJ West in the building saying good morning. Let's go. We got Nonso GMGM. Wyckoff Stock Market Institute. Smash that like, share, and subscribe buttons. Martin Max King, hello. AJ West again said, at 62K Bitcoin, I sold my only stock dividend ETF that was in the green and bought MSTR at 104 and BMNR at 17. Probably smart moves if you believe in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I prefer BMNR out of those two choices. And then we got Miko Chapo saying good morning, guys, as well. Now, you were talking about all you could do is laugh. And let's look at the history of some other big bubbles in Bitcoin, if that's what you want to call them. In 2013, Richard Hart was notorious for making this top. He publicly made this top at $260 and rode it all the way to 70. But then guess what? He was part of the Mt. Gox collapse, meaning he rode it from 70 to 1,000 and back to 400. Then in the crypto winter, this is where we got involved. We were in 2016 and 2017 for Crypto Amaru, riding it from sub $1,000 Bitcoin all the way up to the highs of $20,000 Bitcoin when Ethereum, Litecoin, Digibyte, and very few number of altcoins were in the market making absolute massive gains. But what do you know? Topped out there and went as low as $3,200. Around $4,000 is when I publicly remortgaged my first ever house to buy Bitcoin in that dip, showing the conviction I had that it would make its way into institutional finance. That's when I worked for institutional finance, and they started whispering about Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain. So I took the risk. That played out pretty well. 2020, we went from 9,000 to 4,000. Do you remember that? We were cruising.
Single day. That happened in a day.
Bitcoin heading towards 10,000 again. Okay, bull market is here. 4-year cycle is going to play out perfectly. Oh, black swan of COVID, putting a blip on that 4-year cycle as well.
Yeah, madness. I mean, I remember all these. That one vividly, because when you get a 50% correction in a day and you pair that with the world is coming to an end and we may all die of a zombie virus, not that I really believe that, but it was scary, let's be honest. That was a very different feeling than what's happened, or even in the crypto winter of 2018, which I'd also lived through. I bought the top, essentially, Bitcoin. I think, my wife and I were buying Bitcoin then. I think our last buy was like $17,000 FOMOing in, right? Okay, hits 20, yeah, we're going to be so rich. And then bam, it crashes, and we just held on. Just hold on. If you think, you have to think of Bitcoin like you would any other investment. As hard as that is, I know it's probably more volatile than every investment, so I get why that's hard. But think of it like any other investment. Think long term. And so anyway, we held on, rode it all the way back up. I still have that Bitcoin. I didn't sell Bitcoin. The only time I sold Bitcoin was to buy a TV. Biggest mistake ever. So anyway, I never sell my Bitcoin. Alt's a different story. But look, we've lived through these before. We'll live through them again. Would it have been better to sell at the highs and then load up and double in now? Of course it would have, but almost no one does that. Very, very hard to time everything perfectly. And even if you did, to then have the balls, like AJ, by the way, shout out to AJ, big ball AJ, I'm going to call you. You're probably not going to buy the dip because you're probably going to fucking freak out when shit drops 50%. You're going to think it's going to go to zero, and you're not going to have the balls to buy back in. So, hodling is sometimes just easier. And if you're doing it for many, many years, it always ends up working out in the end.
Bitcoin will continue to print memories that we can always remember in times like this. What's crazy is when you're in these markets and there's such extremes and volatility and specific black swan events, you do remember. We just ran through all these and we can remember vividly sitting in front of the computer, the feeling, did we buy more, did we sell more, did we panic, whatever. And for the new people in the market, maybe that's 2022 for you with the FTX collapse, or even if you're more recently out of this recent bear market from 16,000 to 126 out of Bitcoin. Altcoins have not done anything, so you don't really have the memories for altcoins or meme coins yet, but you will have memories of the 2025 tariff war and the 2026 Epstein file and global sell-off that has just occurred. Now, hopefully, and most likely, they will be fond memories because Bitcoin will be at much higher levels. You'll be talking about this when Bitcoin crashes back down to the previous all-time high of 126,000 after it breaks out to 180 and then does a 40% correction to 126 or whatever that math may be. So I think history repeats itself in that case. Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. It isn't going to zero. There is people now, crypto influencers that sold higher or whatever, saying this is when crypto is now truly dead. And we know when the dead things come out, it seemingly creates V-shaped recoveries and bottoms. Bitcoin, it used to be a meme, and people would take all of the times Bitcoin was pronounced dead and put them into a nice video montage. We haven't seen those yet, but maybe that's because some of the KOLs are focused less about what it means to be in Bitcoin, what the vision is for blockchain technology, why they got into crypto, and now they're just becoming true trading degens, and it's almost blurring the line of just using this as investment capital for trading rather than what it was actually meant to be created. I am noticing that a lot more with KOLs. Maybe that's because it's a blurring of the lines with crypto and institutional and traditional finance. And now everybody's looking at every little detail, trading only, investment portfolio this, and nobody's talking about why they got involved, what blockchain can do, why it is a good speculative asset class, and the power that it brings the people from privacy and transparency to so many other things.
Well, I think you hit on a really good point here. A structural, let's call it headwind, or you could look at it in a positive light. Anyway, it's the prevalence now of leverage trading and options and derivatives. If most of the market, who maybe previously just would have bought and held spot Bitcoin, is now essentially gambling on price go up or down without holding an underlying asset, that's really not great. It's really not great at all. And I think has been the reason for a lot of the problems we've seen over the past 6 months. 1010 wouldn't have happened but for massive amounts of leverage in the crypto space. Probably today or yesterday wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the leverage that's been there. But look, as an asset class matures, you're going to have more financial instruments kind of added to the fray and built in and around the asset. And that is why Bitcoin will never go to zero, because Wall Street's built all these products around Bitcoin. It's not going to go to zero now. Maybe 10 years ago, there's a different timeline of existence where Bitcoin, for whatever reason, just died. We don't live in that timeline. We live in the timeline where it got accepted by institutions and all these financial players on Wall Street, etc. So it's not going to go to zero. But the problem now is it's just been sort of infected, let's call it, with greed and with leverage and with just trading up, price go up and down, and everyone's gotten away from that original ethos, which is a problem, but it ain't going to zero, folks.
Yeah, we got Dovahkiin in the house. The dips give you opportunity for better positions, no matter how small. You better keep that TV. I think you still have the TV in the attic, number one. And number two, yeah, I mean, I don't know everybody's financial situation, but it's really easy to go on Coinbase and set up $5 a week, $10 a week, $20 a month of just auto buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever your safe asset choice is, and let that build up over time. And before you know it, if you accumulate the $5 a week, plus you're seeing growth in the underlying asset, which you probably see from these price points at some point, then you can get quite the portfolio before you know it, just without even getting really touched. Because if you take that $5 a week out of your paycheck, I'm sure you will still survive. You might skip a coffee. You take $10 a week out, maybe you skip a DoorDash. You take $20 a week out, maybe you skip going to the movies for that week. I don't know. But you figure out how to adapt when that money's auto coming out, just like you do for your bills, your taxes, and everything else that auto draws on your account every single month.
Yeah, I saw some funny posts about if you bought the dip or if you bought Bitcoin every time it was declared dead, you'd have like $100 million. Now, obviously, that goes back to like 2010 and shit, so you're not going to have bought in when the price was $5. But buying in either a dollar cost average that Nick just described, or you want to take a little bit more risk and maybe time things like our boy Hexbull. Amazing timing, by the way. Hexbull's been calling the tops and the bottoms like a champ. Buy in on the lows, buy in on the dip. And I actually just had a friend reach out to me, should I buy Bitcoin now? I was like, yeah, man, like these are the times. Think about it. First of all, if you're long term, you're just holding spot, come from maybe a more traditional investing background where you're investing in the S&P 500, for example, Bitcoin is very much a lot more likely to get back to its previous all-time high, which is 100% gain from here, essentially, before the S&P 500 gives you 100% returns, which that could take 10 years, right? 10% annually is kind of the standard. So, yeah, I mean, if you got some dry powder, thinking about entering the market, buying in on these 50% corrections is usually a pretty good move.
Yeah, we'll go over this briefly if you want to, but also let's go to Hexbull, guys. My bottom call was for 60K. 65K has hit. I'm now bullish again. I bought PTGC and XRP yesterday. A lot of it, a lot. First of all, yes, shout out to Hexbull calling for 40K and 45K, then changed it to 65K. We did wick down as low as 60K yesterday. So far, having that V-shape recovery, I think we're at 67 or 68K, up $7,000 or $8,000 off the low. We will take a look at the chart here shortly. And he's choosing PTGC and XRP as well. Now, I don't like XRP. I don't want you to get XRP, but if you want to get XRP, you can get XRP. That's fine. You got David Portnoy buying XRP with you, so maybe he can convince all the sports betting degenerates to also load up on XRP. But I do like PTGC, because PTGC is one that we gave you here at $1 or $2 million market cap multiple times. Even after this whole 90% sell-off on Pulse Chain, PTGC's market cap is still like $20 or $30 million right now. You're still sitting on a 20x plus passive income. That is a great choice. And if you like PTGC, we need you to buy a little bit of Surf as well. I don't know if you're in the Surf Dow yet. That's 200,000 Surf, 400,000 Surf, a million Surf. You can put a lot less than you did in a PTGC and XRP and still get a meaningful position, a meaningful percentage amount of that total supply. And Crypto Paradise is going nowhere. Surf is liquidity bonded with PTGC and with Pulse Chain, has deflationary token economics. And we're working with pools. We're working with other projects that are about to be launching, and there's marketing dollars that goes with that, marketing revenue that goes with that, and a percentage of that revenue will go towards Surf buy and burns, Surf buy and holds, and Surf buy and LP ads, all of which do what? Decrease total supply and increase the liquidity there on Surf, taking it off the open market. So make sure to check that out. So PTGC, nice choice. Bitcoin at 65K, it went to 60 and it's at 67, nice choice. XRP, yeah, you lost me there, but I'll let you do what you want to do since you tune into the live show every day.
I mean, XRP is going to do a double up. It's at $1 now, right? It's at some absurdly low price. So are all alts. I mean, everything took a absolute beating yesterday just because everyone went started panicking for no real reason other than maybe what we're about to explain now. So yeah, I mean XRP's fine, it'll do well. We don't like it because the founder just keeps dumping on everyone's head and it has no real use case and no one uses the chain. I prefer Ethereum myself, Solana even, but in any event, he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's going to be fine. Expo knows how to invest.
Devil's advocate on that comment is, XRP has openly, they algorithmically sell their XRP since forever. That's proven. But I'll be the devil's advocate, and you said the founder's selling on everybody's head. It was announced Vitalik Buterin just sold $6.9 million worth of Ethereum as the decline was going on before the massive capitulation.
True, he did do that, and the timing was terrible, and he shouldn't do that, and he really shouldn't announce.
He panicked. He's like, I need to live. I got a girlfriend.
No, dude's a billionaire. He's actually using that money to reinvest into more Ethereum development. That's the story.
Why sell the Ethereum?
He's using his personal funds to put back into the progress of the chain.
That's
allegedly.
That's nonsense to me because the thing is, even if you are doing that, then why sell the Ethereum? If they're doing Ethereum development, you're telling me they don't have a crypto wallet and will accept Ethereum, and then if they want to sell, they can sell at their given time. But if you're investing in Ethereum development, give them Ethereum, pay them in Ethereum. If you're developing on Ethereum, you have a crypto wallet. Let them sell, not sell 7 million at a time and be like, I'm reinvesting this dollars into Ethereum. That's bullshit. That's retarded. And if that's the case, that is dumb. Why would you sell it for 7 million cash and then give it to crypto developers?
That's a really good point. He could have just gifted it to the Ethereum Foundation too, behind the scenes. Here, guys, I just sent you 7 million Ethereum. Do with it what you will. Hire people, whatever. Talk to you later.
Not to say you can't sell.
The amount is not bad at all because 7 million. I mean, Ethereum's doing billions in volume every day, so 7 million is a drop in the bucket. But the optics, the timing, and this is not the first time he's done this.
No, but I would rather him just say, look, I got $1 billion in ETH. I gotta live. I gotta pay for this mansion. I gotta pay for this vacation. I gotta live. Rather than be like, oh, I'm reinvesting it in Ethereum, but I'm gonna sell Ethereum to reinvest it into Ethereum. That's retarded. You gotta live, bro. I got bills to pay. Like that's what it is. I mean,
I don't think dude is like the Lambo type and the mansions type, is he? Like I don't think he fucks with that. I don't think he rolls like that. But in any event, not a big deal. Ethereum's going to recover. Solana's going to recover. Even your shitty XRP is everything's going to be fine. So here's the interesting question. Why the hell did out of the blue, this was essentially out of the blue, guys. I know a lot of the market's crashing and so on. But Ethereum went down 40% in a week. This is out of the blue, massive capitulation. How the heck did this happen? Well, here comes Parker out of the blue as well with this juicy take, a little bit of a conspiracy theory. I don't think we'll go through every single
too much to read
word here, but basically what he's suggesting is that there are hedge funds based out of Hong Kong which may have had major exposure, 100% exposure. Their entire fund was in the IBIT Bitcoin and doing options trading with it, right? So leverage essentially using IBIT. And somehow, somewhere or another, maybe related to the sell-off on gold, maybe related to the unwind of the Japanese yen carry trade. Who knows why, but they got overexposed and essentially blew up, and then had to just dump all of their IBIT holdings aggressively over the past, I don't know, few weeks. And so these hedge funds, or this hedge fund blowing up, what a surprise if this is true. Leverage crushes the market once again. Every single blow up seems to have to do with overextending. Remember FTX, remember Terra Luna, remember that other hedge fund in crypto. Anyways, it always has to do with leverage. Blew the F up, resulting in a massive unwind, massive selling, and this, ladies and gentlemen, allegedly is why the market crashed so aggressively the past week.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when all the global markets are so tied together and they were taking a hit, and you already had Bitcoin and Ethereum lagging. So if you even have more exposure to that and the rest of your portfolio is taking a hit, that's how you can quickly have to unwind if investors are drawing capital or if your fund itself is just down across the board. And if you're using leverage, 3x, you talk about silver going down 44% in 4 days, and if you're on a 3x of that, if you're on a 2 or 3x of a Bitcoin exposure and it's gone from 126 down to 80 at the time over the course of 3 months, well, and then you get hit with the precious metal, you get caught chasing that and losing big money, 20% on gold, 44% on silver at leverage. That's how you can unwind. We've seen some of the smartest, brightest people in the space, even crypto space, get unwinded. Willy Woo lost out. The Wolf of Wall Street guy, his fund just blew up. Frontier Fund pretty much blew up. Have some capital left. You're seeing the unwinding of the carry trade in Japan. I mean, this is how everything that. Yes, it's nice that global markets are together. Yes, it's nice that there's other financial instruments you can leverage up rather than just spot and get really articulate. That's all cool and grand and grandiose, and it gives people opportunity, but at the same time, it ties everything together so much that when one thing starts to fall apart, it's a domino effect, and that's where we see these major crises, not only in crypto, but in traditional markets and precious metals as well.
Yeah, everything's tied together, like you mentioned. We'll see. Information will come out because the IBIT investors, they're required to do public disclosure. So we'll actually know within apparently 45 days or so whether that in fact happened with a big hedge fund blowing up. You know, a couple of lessons here. One, stay away from leverage. God, even the best, most sophisticated, the smartest people, they eventually get wrecked. I mean, you saw it with the whale who was trading on Hyperliquid, had a series of massive wins, seemed to time everything perfectly. He was apparently the founder of a defunct exchange. His name was Garrett. He was on a massive win streak and then got liquidated for hundreds of mils. You saw a lot of these whales that were just crushing it over on Hyperliquid and elsewhere eventually get liquidated. And now this hedge fund, it's a story as old as time. I mean, you can do well doing leverage for a while, but eventually it's kind of like, going to the casino. You're on a hot streak. Doing great. Oh, you're up. But if you don't take the chips off the table and know when to quit, eventually you're going to lose. And that's kind of what happens, I think, with these funds. So, look, the hedge fund blowing up, probably a big part of it. Probably not the whole story, though, because it wasn't just them selling. By the way, another piece of evidence to support the hedge fund theory. Apparently, the volume on the IBIT trading yesterday was many multiples higher than the spot volume across the regular crypto exchanges. So that would suggest that this theory has some credence. But in any event, it was probably a multitude of things. They start selling. Panic sellers come into the fray. Other people with leverage, they're getting margin called. I mean, these things can cascade very quickly. I don't know, man. Hold spot, stay away from leverage. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you can see all the markings of the buys and sells on Bitcoin. Been pretty defensive on Bitcoin side, selling up here near 118 and not really starting to buy back at 92, buying back at 81. We did take a sell on a profit stop here at 82,193. Bought back 33% on the dip, and now looking at buying more. We went as low as $60,000 yesterday. This is a bullish formation here with a 66% probability of breaking to the upside and a 33% of breaking to the downside. We did break out. Remember, we were at 98,000. Everything looked great. And then we had the Greenland weakened FUD and the European World War III FUD, which turned this negative. And ever since then, it's been Black Swan, Headwind, Black Swan, FUD, Epstein files, holy cow, we're dead, leading us down this doldrum. Now, is it over? Is the 4-year cycle going to be correct, and we bottom at $40,000 later this year, and that will be another 4-year cycle, and we continue to find a big, low down at 40, 45K and then build again? Or is the cycle still on? Headwinds will be turning to tailwinds, liquidity coming back to the markets, interest rates getting cut, and my gosh, we shook the tree harder than we've ever shaken it before, and it's time for a V-shaped recovery, rebuilding through early 2026, and new all-time highs by the end of 2026 for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and hopefully our altcoins.
That would align with our view on the market and our view on reality and the political situation. We know rate cuts are coming. That's happening without a shadow of a doubt, probably even before Kevin Warsh comes into play. QE may restart as well. We'll see. We have Trump's own QE in the form of the tariff rebates and the tax refunds coming through, courtesy of the big, beautiful bill. So a lot of potential tailwinds. But here's something we did not account for. And, I think it's important for ourselves and pretty much every other bull out there who got it wrong to say, hey, we got it wrong, and here's why, and we'll be a little smarter next time. But the thing, at least I didn't personally account for, because we were thinking about more so the future buyers, the ETF buyers, the DATs, Michael Saylor. We weren't accounting for, at least enough, for all the existing holders that still held Bitcoin that came from a previous cycle. And apparently they mostly took, it seems like most of them took the 4-year cycle to heart. And when things started to look that way from a chart perspective, I think a lot of them just got the F out of Dodge and sold a bunch. And there ended up being more sellers than buyers.
Yeah,
Fundamentally, that's normally why a market goes down.
The guy that was selling for $9 billion or whatever, he sold between like 95,000 to 116,000. So he didn't get the exact top up there by any means. But he said, still believe in Bitcoin, still hold some Bitcoin, but I just want to be able to sleep well the next 4 years. And if the 4-year cycle does play out, he wants to know that, hey, he took big chips off the table, $9 billion between 95K and 105K. He was happy with that. And he's been right for most of that time. Obviously, went as high as 126. You're above that 95K multiple times. A rally to 116, a rally to 98K even a month ago. But right now, he's probably happy he did that. And he's probably in the camp now of not really looking to buy back. He's probably in the camp of, okay, 4-year cycle is going to happen. I'll go to 40K. Maybe I'll buy back then. But regardless, I'm sitting on $9 billion cash, still own some Bitcoin, and he's sleeping well at night. So didn't pick the exact top, didn't have the perfect timing. But when you're talking about billions of dollars, I mean, and you were just a really early speculative investor, you're not a big rich guy with all these other businesses and whatnot, probably feels pretty good to sell that $9 billion. So I do agree with you. We didn't account for some of these OGs to finally hit milestones as far as valuations of the portfolio, that they are willing to leave their early beliefs, to leave their cyberpunk, their anti-government, their pro-transparency, pro-privacy ways because, well, quite frankly, they're not seeing millions or tens of millions. They are seeing hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and regardless of what they think of the US dollar or any fiat currency, they will have plenty of it to survive for their family and for generations to come by hitting that sell button and, saying thank you to Bitcoin. See you later.
Yeah, it's a story that we covered extensively. I mean, when the price was above 100K, you kept seeing stories pop up, this whale, that whale, billion here, 9 billion there, whatever. I don't know if we took into account all the smaller fish in the sea who maybe like a Hexpol, maybe a couple mil. I don't know how much his portfolio is. Did very well in Bitcoin. Still believes in 4-year cycle. And there's a lot of those people. If you look on the groups that I'm in Telegram, most still believed in the 4-year cycle. You look at a lot of the influencers on X, they were pushing 4-year cycle. So I think we didn't account for all that potential sell pressure. And we were kind of focused too much on the new buyers who were definitely there. I mean, the new buyers were a thing and continue to be a thing. But man, there were a lot more believers in the 4-year cycle than maybe I, let's just call initially thought would be the case. So is what it is. Hey, you can't always get them right. Do I wish I sold at 126K and bought back at 60? Of course I did. Of course I do. But that's just not how the cookie crumbled for myself. And gonna huddle on here and wait till the next run up. And anyway, I'm not gonna sell my Bitcoin for another 10 years anyway. So it is what it is.
We got Moonmutt saying good morning. Thank God it's Friday. Yeah, in 10 years you're gonna be the guy who is a big evangelist of crypto and everything else, but you see enough zeros to hit that sell, and somebody else will be talking about, oh, we didn't take into consideration these OGs that really believe in Bitcoin. saw enough zeros that regardless of what's going on with fiat, it's still probably time to hit the sell button and not really look back because you're going to be good to go.
Dude, that's literally why I'm holding on. I mean, not the only reason. I mean, believing it in Bitcoin, it's going to go up, for all millions of different reasons. But like to see those stories of those guys who they bought in, dude, in like 2010, 2011, 2013, early days, right? How many crashes did they live through? How much FUD did they survive? How much doubt, from their family members and their friends telling them, get out of Bitcoin, it's a scam. It's going to zero, bro. You should invest in the S&P 500. How much did they live through that to ultimately come out champions at the end with billions? I don't have enough Bitcoin to ever be a billionaire, but I mean, if I can make 5, 6 mil, 10 mil, that's enough for me to retire in incredible comfort and take care of my kids and my family for their lives. I think you just wisely invest that over the years. So anyway, 10 more years, that's my time horizon. Maybe one day I'll be one of these whales and I'll be transparent and say, hey guys, I just dumped on your heads.
We got Emmanuel Carmo in the house, says cheers to all from Portugal. Shout out to you for tuning in. And we got Shaka Vibe. Credit to these guys for continuing to show up multiple times per week. That says something. Yeah, we strive for 5 times a week. Sometimes if a kid is poking us in the eye or something comes up, maybe it's only 3 or 4 times. But when we don't go live, we do have somebody doing some short forms for us, or maybe we're doing regular tweets, or we're on Telegram in the surf dial, whatever it may be. So trying to be active, even though right now there isn't all that much activity to cover when it comes to altcoins, gems, day trading. It's more just big macros, what's going on with Bitcoin and ETH, how is precious metals affecting things, as well as stocks and whatnot. But there's always something going on in these markets that we can talk about, and we try to get on here to help you guys through the storm. Because if you guys survived yesterday, that was the 8th largest single-day Bitcoin drawdown in the past decade, and you survived. Maybe that's because you tuned into the live show, you felt grounded. Maybe that's because you were able to go touch grass or do a different job so that you can do your $5 a week into crypto, DCA on Coinbase, whatever we tell you to do. You survived it. The 8th largest single-day Bitcoin drawdown in the past decade. And we can see that there also was another one in 2022, 2020, and 2021. So these recent bull markets to bear cycles have been pretty brutal. And if you're here, you're surviving. And if you're winning, well, you're doing it against all odds.
You know what's crazy? Looking at all these dates, I was here for every single one of them except 1/11/17. I don't think I held any Bitcoin then. I think I bought my first Bitcoin in the middle of that year. Maybe June, July or something of 2017. So I missed that one. But every single other one of these lived through and held through. And I can tell you guys, looking at the journey of my own portfolio, despite everything, despite the drawdowns, the crashes, the FUD, the doubt, everything, my portfolio is, 10x or more, 20x in the case of my Ethereum, higher than when I was buying it at back in the day. Did take 10 years, So that was a journey. But if you were to ask any normal investor, hey, Mr. Investor, you'll 20x your money. All you got to do is get through the volatility. But you hold on to this thing for 10 years, as you can do it 20 times. Any normal investor would sign up for that any day of the week. So take it from a guy who's lived through them all. Not easy, not fun, but you hold through, and eventually the portfolio ends up higher.
So far, we are seeing this. We'll see if it becomes a reality. V-shaped recovery time for blue chip crypto coins. We're seeing green on Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're seeing 15% and 20% gains for ZEC, XMR, and some other altcoins. So obviously they went down massively yesterday, but they are trying to bounce here. Richard Hart telling you like it is. I've been telling you Bitcoin was at the top of an S-curve for several years now, which means that if you want to make mad gains, you might want to buy something better with more potential. Pulse Chain is better. Ethereum is better. PLSX, Hex, and ProveX, when it comes out, have more potential as well. And this isn't anything out of the ordinary. It's not even him saying, hey, sell all your Bitcoin. It's just saying what we always say. If Bitcoin goes to 244K, even from here, that's a 4X. What does Ethereum do if Bitcoin goes to $244,000? What does Pulse Chain do? What does XRP do, for that matter? It probably outperforms because they are earlier in the S-curve when it comes to adoption, number of wallets, and upside potential due to token economics. That's what he's trying to say here, and this is his way of saying, hey, it hasn't been fun, and Ethereum has been down versus Bitcoin. Pulse Chain's been down versus Bitcoin. ProveX isn't even launched. But if you're looking at market capitalizations, token economics, and adoption rates, maybe they will, and they should, outperform Bitcoin's next bull cycle?
Oh man, there's massive opportunity in the market right now. I know we talk about Bitcoin a lot, but most of you guys probably don't care about Bitcoin because you don't have 100 or 200 or 500,000 to invest, and that's the kind of money you need to, be happy with your Bitcoin gains over the next 3 years. So if you got $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, you're in the low cap gem world, which by the way we are there too, even more so now with the acquisition of pools. But yeah, if you want to do 5x, 10x more, you're gonna have to take more risk. That could mean getting involved with a nascent chain like a Pulse chain. It could mean in getting involved in the world of pump fund memes, although I don't recommend that because you'll definitely get rugged and scammed because there's professional ruggers and scammers there that will steal your money. It could mean in getting involved with pre-sales. We offer pre-sale opportunities through Crypto Paradise. You want to get into seed rounds, we have access to those great deals if you're looking for that kind of opportunity. Or now with the Pools Finance platform, a Launchpad platform, which we're working with, you can get involved into public sale rounds. So right before the token launches, you can buy into the last available round in that pre-sale. Token then launches. And the best part about it is you actually have an option to get a refund. If the shit doesn't go well for you, the token doesn't launch properly and it doesn't do well, you have 24-hour window in which to get a refund. So we got some exciting news we're going to drop here soon for Crypto Paradise DAO members vis-a-vis the Pools opportunity on ChimpX, which is a project launching on Pools in about a week. So Crypto Paradise DAO members, you're about to get a cool announcement for that. But yeah, you're looking to do a 10x, 100x, whatever. You got to get a little bit in the trenches, a little bit more risk on. As much as I love Bitcoin, I'm sure you guys are like, why is he keep on Bitcoin? I only have $1,000 to invest.
Yeah, and if you only have $1,000 to invest, whether you got to take a risk here, but also it's nice to win giveaways. We've done plenty of giveaways. We'll be doing more giveaways, but you can actually get active right now, and very few people are to get a chance to win. ChimpX is an example of this on BNB. Trade to Earn is live on the app here. Win 10,000 rewards in 30 days. First place gets $650, second place $400, third place $250. So maybe check that out. Maybe have more information around the giveaway or this competition that ChimpX is doing here before the launch of their official token over on the Pools platform.
Yeah, glad you mentioned that. I'll talk a little bit more about ChimpX here. First of all, if you want to invest into the public sale round through Pools, there still is an opportunity to do that. The whitelist is closed, but there's going to be an opportunity for Crypto Paradise DAO members to get in and get a whitelist. Or you can actually get a first come, first serve slot. If you want to just get in, there's going to be a 12-hour sale, first come, first serve, $250 allocation in the public sale round. Still, you can get a refund. Still refund, the conditions apply, which is great. But any event, what I like about ChimpX, man, first of all, they built a product that people want to use. They already have adoption and traction on this app, this D app. They're getting some more, looks like, exposure and support from the BNB ecosystem because they kind of leaned into BNB Chain. And one great thing about BNB Chain is they will give their builders support to varying levels of degree if it's a good project. And ChimpX has built a good project. The third thing I like about them, they are builders at heart. Looks like they're going to be building a prediction market next. What happens after that, right? Fourth thing I like, very good token economics. I mean, we're looking at a 7 million FDV at launch. Sub $1 million market cap at launch. Plenty of upside, in my opinion. Now, is it guaranteed to go up? No, but I'd much rather like 7 million FDV versus 70. And in the bear market, which, clearly we're in a bear market now, those are the kind of opportunities you get. So good FDV, good token economics, good team. I think they have a strong launch plan. They're doing some more marketing and stuff like that. They just did that trading competition. I think more KOLs coming on board, coming online here. So get in through Pools, refund option available to you. So it's pretty much risk-free if you're paying enough attention to get that refund within a 24-hour period. I think you can do well, man. I think you can do well, especially if we're finally done with the crash and the correction and the capitulation. And the rest of the market's going to be slowly grinding up here.
I would agree. So tune in for more information on ChimpX. That is coming soon. Let's see what's going on with silver price. We talked about this, but haven't looked at it since we've been live. We saw the run up there to $121 spot price, dropped huge, and at $78, I said time for a rally and consolidation. Went from $78 to 93, and then yesterday when everything was selling off, it went as low as $63 per ounce. Bitcoin going to $60,000, and now we are seeing a relief rally here for silver, for Bitcoin, and many other assets. That is interesting to see there. What's gold price doing? Let's take a look at gold. Remember, we wanted a downturn in silver and gold, but then we want a long, drawn-out consolidation to let Bitcoin and Ethereum catch up, as well as other risk-on assets. You can see similar here. Gold, massive drop to the moving average, the 300 moving average, a rally, now a drop to the 200 moving average, and another rally, just like we said we wanted to see. Now let's see consolidation and have this draw out within this range without going to a new high or without going to a new low for like 3 or 4 months, and let's see what happens to Bitcoin price. I can almost guarantee if that happens, Bitcoin prices will be back into the $90,000 range. So that's what we're rooting for. Never feels good, but you survived, and we are seeing some green today. I know it was the 8th worst drop single day for Bitcoin yesterday. It could have been worse and been followed up with another drop today. I guess the day is not over yet, so I don't want to jinx it. But 68,000 feels a lot better than 60,000. Normally, you can't go straight up. I mean, this obviously doesn't look like it will continue to go straight up. So hopefully we can just kind of meander and start the grind again like we did off this V-shaped recovery. We had the 98K breakout, and then Trump had to go ahead and start World War III talks, and that's where the downtrend started once again.
No, I don't blame Trump for all this. I know that's like maybe one of the many proximate causes for this crash. But I think if you zoom out, looking at macros, what we may be witnessing is sort of a fundamental paradigm shift when it comes to the financial markets, when it comes to fiat currencies, when it comes to global politics. There is a lot of disruption happening. AI right now as well. There's a lot of change, rapid change happening across the world. And you see China now trying to do what they can to disrupt the dollar from being the dominant fiat currency. That's one big reason why gold had its big run. Sovereign wealth funds and Federal Reserves around the world were buying up gold, probably to fight the dollar. You have fears of U.S. having way too much debt on its books, right? 38 trillion in debt. How attractive is a U.S. Treasury when you're dealing with a country as broke as the United States? AI is transforming the economy, job market. There's just a lot of general uncertainty and fear and change happening. I think like if you zoom out, maybe that's one big reason why the market nuked. Even if there's many smaller related reasons, I think there's just general fear right now of this big change we're seeing. And Bitcoin's, a victim of that, just like every other asset was.
We got Duke of Booze in here, says, cheers, everyone. Of course, with that name, he had to put the beer cup there. What's going on, man? Hopefully we can find you some gains and you can buy us a beer sometime. We got Frank Super in the house saying, how are you holding up, champs? We are holding up, and we've been talking here every single day, so you can always watch the rewind to see what we talked about as far as price performance of Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, silver, and the NASDAQ. Also, we did have some alphas and gems that we were talking about in this live show as well. And we got our resident bear back. Hex Bull changes target from 40K to 45K to 65K, buying PTGC and XRP yesterday on the dip when that goal was achieved. So he is back on the bull side, and that leads us into this. The 30 indicators that have called bull market multi-year cycle tops, none of them have still hit. So does that mean that we do get this shortened bear market within inside of this longer bull trend? Well, hopefully that is the case, and we don't go to $40,000 Bitcoin, which means that the 4-year cycle played out exactly the same. If we go to 40,000 Bitcoin and we have a year of doldrum, the 4-year cycle repeated itself. But if we stop and we can hold somewhere around here and we get to new highs by the end of 2026, the elongated cycle theory played out. And these bull market peak indicators probably will start to be hit. Right now, still 0 of 30. The average progress is now down to 32%. When we were at 126,000 or 110,000, the progress bar was up to around 44%. But none of these were still hitting. And these ones historically have called multi-year cycle tops for Bitcoin, cycle after cycle. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this. Some are into the 80s. But nothing has hit yet. 94, 90, 95, with the average progress being only 32.7%, which isn't all that crazy considering Bitcoin is now $68,000.
We're still at 100% hold. I don't know if that's great advice given what happened with the market. Nuking. Like maybe you should have sold 2 months ago. Maybe you should have told us that. But yeah, I mean, I think these indicators are still relevant. It's going to be really interesting to see, man. Like, I'm still in the camp that the 4-year cycle isn't a thing anymore, and that this was more so a correction or a black swan. Let's call it a black swan within a bull market. The liquidation crisis at 1010 and basically all the fallout from that, culminating yesterday in the huge crash. But who knows? We'll see. I mean, we could. We're not that far away from 40,000. So, we really do need to see a recovery here. At least a consolidation starting. V-shaped recovery would be better. But, yeah, man, look, nobody knows. Nobody. That's like the big takeaway from everything that's happened in the past 6-12 months. I mean, it's just very, very difficult to predict the price, the sort of short-term price performance of Bitcoin, stock market to some degree, gold. I mean, who would have thought gold was going to go on that massive run? So it's just very crazy environment right now. We're in uncharted waters. Paradigm shift is real, I think, from a macro standpoint. It's just making everything very difficult to predict what's going to happen next.
We got Christopher Bernard 2647 says Surf deserves a nice pump. Active leaders in the community keeping us up to date. Cheers. Shout out to you. Haven't seen your name in the live show a lot. Maybe you watch us on Twitter and not YouTube. You finally made your way over to YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we continue to help you. And yes, I mean, Surf will pump if Pulse Chain helps it out. It has liquidity bonding to Pulse Chain. We're going to be active. We have marketing dollars, revenue from the business itself coming in, and that will be used for Surf buy-in burns, buy-in LP ads, buy-in holds, and the price will go up. What's crazy is Surf can do a 30x from now just to get to its previous all-time high. And that all-time high occurred when Surf was still in its infancy after only a couple months after launch, with Pulse Chain doing a 2, 3, 4, 5x off where it was when we launched the token. And that price still wasn't even all-time highs for Pulse Chain, and that was with an undervaluation of Pulse Chain compared to Ethereum and other competitors in the market. And we just saw today Richard Heart is still very active. Another thing we didn't mention about is, remember, Richard Heart did have 3 things looming over his head. He had the SEC, in which he beat a while ago. We saw about a 5x pump of Pulse Chain off of that news, and we saw other minor pumps, which led to Surf going to a 3.6 million valuation after launching at an 11K valuation. Then he had 2 Interpol cases over his head. You might not even know this, Crypto Amaru. Just yesterday, one of those 2 Interpol cases was removed. One of them was apparently an assault on a minor. The other one is for tax fraud or evasion. One of the Interpol red cases is now removed from their website. That is, the assault case no longer exists on Interpol website for Richard Heart. All that remains is the tax fraud case. And as somebody who supposedly has a lot of money, you think he can settle up and shore up the tax fraud case, no longer has the Interpol red notice, and then what happens? He can finally go live again, show his face at conferences if he deems wishes, and have actual events without the fear of going to prison. I don't know. Could be pretty good timing if the low is in and he's starting to get Interpol cases removed, and maybe he can come back with a vengeance with Ethereum, Bitcoin, and so many other crypto projects.
Happy to see that. I do expect the Interpol case for the tax issue to be resolved. Tax cases get settled out. I mean, that's normally how the shit works. Very rarely does someone go to prison, at least in the U.S., over tax evasion or fraud. It does happen, I guess, but usually it's like you pay the fines, you pay the big fees, maybe you go for a couple of months. I mean, you're not going to be locked up for 10 years. You didn't murder anyone. So in any event, I do expect. I don't know how Interpol works. I don't know which tax. Was it Finland or some shit that
some
they're
random
claiming?
Country. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like a random country. I have no idea how their taxes work. Maybe he's in for a long prison sentence. Hopefully not. Just pay the damn tax bill, even if it's a couple $100 million, and move on with your life. That's my take anyway. So let's hope he gets back out there and active again. What else do we got going on today over at Crypto Paradise headquarters?
Yeah, I was just going to say, nonetheless, Surf is obviously a very good buy. And if we talked about Pulse Chain there, because if Pulse Chain rallies due to liquidity bonding, Surf is going to rally as well. And that's where we can actually see massive gains from a deflationary asset that isn't going anywhere. So shout out to you for tuning in here. We got Shaka Vibe says the tax situation gets settled with ETH recovers. That's true, because if ETH goes up, then he has more money to settle the taxes. That's for sure. Also, we've been talking about no alt season in crypto until ETH is $5,000 or higher, which unfortunately never happened. So we were right about that. Ethereum failed to get to a new all-time high in the past 5 or 6 years now, and we didn't have that alt season that we were all looking for. And that's still when I think a lot of things get turned on. People are like, when is ProveX going to launch? What's the rush? Why would you launch here? It probably doesn't get launched until Ethereum's $5,000. So we'll keep following along with Pulse Chain, with ProveX, with Richard Hart. Another one that has come back. We talked about Charles Hoskinson yesterday. He had to crash out, but he is making his way back. And he just did another video saying that, other people were like, oh, suck it up, Charles. You made all this money. You're rich. Blah, blah, blah. It's fine. He said he's lost more money than anybody that's watching his channel. He is now down $3 billion on his portfolio if you look at it to paper gains currently based on the value of the tokens and his holdings. He said he could have easily sold it all and walked away, but that's not why he is here in crypto. He is here for the long term. He is here for the tech, and he is here to change the world. Down $3 billion. So when you feel bad about your portfolio, yes, it sucks. Yes, you should have had hindsight. There's Charles Hoskinson, one of the earliest creators of Ethereum, one of the earliest market participants, one of the smartest guys in the area, still messed up and has down, on paper, $3 billion currently due to these market conditions.
Well, here's what he may not be telling you. I mean, his portfolio therefore went from $6 billion to $3 billion. So he's down 50%. So, he still got $3 billion in his portfolio. So, I mean, the dude's not hurting for money. But look, I'm glad he didn't dump on everyone's head at the top. I mean, that would have been really shitty. So, look, he's down like everybody else. That's one thing that I'm loving about this crash and all other crashes. They kind of bring people together. Like, look at the stream today. We have a lot of people jumping in the stream, engaging with us. Doesn't the depths of the bear market bring out something in people where they're like, it's a fight or flight? I think that's what it is. It's either I'm scared, I'm selling out, and I'm leaving crypto forever. We obviously don't hear from those people. The other side of it is, nah, fuck that, I'm doubling down. You ain't counting me out. I'm not getting knocked out of this fight, baby. I'm getting back up, and I'm going to continue grinding away. That's the people who joined the stream today. That's the people who are watching on X. Let's get some engagement. By the way, please give us a like, subscribe, share, retweet, etc. But isn't that the case, right? Like, there's two kinds of people in this world. When the market nukes 50%, you either want to run away crying and never come back, or you double down, you man up, and you grow some balls, and you carry on.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I wanted to show is we always talk about the fear and greed index in these moments of turmoil, and we can see, holy cow, even more so than the low that we saw that I think was November 20th. We have a extreme fear of 5.
Wow. Yeah, we've never had that. This is the first time it's been that low, right? I mean,
oh man,
have we ever had that low?
I think that's because it wasn't
Previous
just
low was
Bitcoin
9.
or crypto going down yesterday. It was every single asset class. I mean, everything but Pokemon went down yesterday, folks. Gold nuked, largest asset in the world. Oh, second largest silver, nuked. NASDAQ nuked. Bitcoin, crypto, Ethereum, nuke. Epstein ran it all. It's all Fugazi. Pedophiles, death to America, death to all fiat currencies. Holy cow. Sell it all. To what, though? That's always the thing with this. When you panic to sell your investment assets, you panic to what? You panic to fiat, which is probably the worst investment asset. When you panic in crypto, you panic sell to what? A stable coin. And if you get in the wrong stable coin, it has third-party rights in which they can just shut the stable coin off, and it's just tied to the US dollar. That's what's interesting about the panics. It's always like, what do you sell to when you're trying to protect your value? Obviously, you go to the dollar because at least you can spend that in the real world. But the whole reason that you are even in those investment class was to get out of the dollar. It's just big, like, hyperbolic loop of uncertainty when you're in investing. And we get those panic days, and people are just fleeing everything and don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what it comes out. They don't know what they're doing. They're just reacting, emotional reaction, fear. If you don't know what you hold, if you don't believe in the value proposition of the asset, it's very easy to panic sell. So that's why I always say, like, understand what you invest in, why you're invested in it, what you like about it. That's going to allow you to weather these storms. But yeah, it's a great point. Like, what do you put your money into? I mean, SP 500, that's at all-time highs, basically. Real estate, I mean, that's not a game you really want to get involved with. Trust me on that. The best thing to do, frankly, would just be to buy more Bitcoin. Sell it and then, wait for it to go lower and buy more. Because I promise you, it's going to outperform those other types of asset classes, real estate, S&P, whatever, over the next 6 to 12 months. So,
yeah, and I think the thing that you want to root for if you're in any investment class, whether it's Pokemon, Bitcoin, crypto, whatever, is you're rooting for this to be a high-level consolidation in the stock market, and stock market's going to continue its uptrend higher throughout the remainder of the next 6, 9, 12 months, leading off the back of Fed policies, Trump tariff rebates, tax rebates, stimulus checks, whatever it may be. And that's still in play. We can see here it found support on the longer-term moving average, still has a higher low, and this could be an ABC correction ending somewhere down here. And this is going to lead you to finally get that oversold RSI. When did it happen last time? The exact low. When did it happen before that? The exact lows on the tariff FUD. So everything is kind of lining up for there to be some kind of high-level consolidation and a continuation of the NASDAQ here. Does it happen from here or slightly lower? You do have room here. You could go as low as 23, 24,000 and still be okay. But ultimately, if you have the measured move for that move, you're looking at $30,000, $33,000 NASDAQ by the end of 2026. And if that happens and Bitcoin still can't go to a new all-time high, Bitcoin's dead.
Well, you know who needs the stock market to run and the economy to recover and Americans to feel much better about their lives? Donald Trump. I mean, he needs all of that to happen if they have any chance of retaining power in the midterms come November. So he'll do what he can. We need those rebate checks to come. I know Americans, we're starting to file taxes here pretty soon. So I guess start to see some nice rebates and refunds coming on the taxes. The tariff rebate, well, that won't happen if the Supreme Court F's him over. So that's a big question mark. The Supreme Court is hearing that case on the legality of the tariffs. New Fed chairman coming in, Kevin Warsh. He's got to do right by us and cut the rates. We're going to get some very interesting data on the job market, I believe, coming out next week. It looks like they will be heavily revising the jobs numbers downward from the initial estimates. So the job market, by the looks of it, is actually worse than what we've been talking about, and we've been talking about it's pretty damn bad. Inflation's been beaten as far as I can tell. I don't know what data the Fed's looking at here, but inflation's pretty much an old story. Yeah, Fed needs to pivot. We gotta get taxes and tax refunds, et cetera, in the hands of Americans. We can engineer a recovery, but it's gonna take a couple of lucky breaks. We haven't gotten any lucky breaks, at least in crypto, in what seems like forever.
I think we kind of covered everything today. I'm sure all of you want to get back to your normal day and maybe not think about crypto prices unless they get higher. There is overhead resistance on Ethereum between 2,000 to 2,100. So don't be surprised if this V-shaped recovery that we're seeing slows up in that range or has some kind of rejection. That doesn't mean that it's over. It just means that, hey, that is a healthy retest of a major support level that was broken to the downside when we saw the capitulation yesterday. You need to kind of fill those gaps, get all those traders back on the right side of the trade, and then we'll see what happens from there. So that'd be another $100, $150 move higher today for Ethereum before we kind of get to those rejection points. And hopefully tomorrow we'll be back. What is today? Is today Friday?
Today's Friday. We're not on tomorrow.
We probably won't be back. Maybe we'll see a short form video from us tomorrow, depending on what the price action looks like out of crypto and other assets.
Yeah, I don't think we get too much excitement over the weekend price-wise. Hopefully nothing to the downside. We don't need more of that. But we could be getting some big news with the passage of the Clarity Act here coming. The Republicans are really gunning for it to happen by end of Feb. And news has been leaking that the crypto lobby has such a war chest, something $200 million that they're ready to spend to sway, the midterms, that basically even the Dems are being pushed into a corner to vote to approve it, even if they don't want to.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because at the agricultural level, the Dems didn't give a shit. It was 11 Dems voted no, 12 Republicans voted yes, and it passed. I mean, that's crazy to me. After all the progress that has been made with crypto and Bitcoin, the adoption, seeing how many people, how many Americans, and how it's tied to global finance, how many people around the world use it, invest in it, whatever. You got nation states, El Salvador, Argentina, Qatar, the list goes on. And they still unanimously, in their little democratic corridors, behind closed doors, want to vote no on anything that has to do with Bitcoin and crypto. Understanding why, not because of the good of American people, not for the good of blockchain technology, not for the good of advancements of the American civilization, but voting no because of anti-Trump, and they know it's something he can lean on to keep Republicans in power. It's unfortunate that that's the position we're in, but I think it's as clear as ever because of all the progress and saying this is bipartisan and blah, blah, blah. When the votes came down to it, all 11 Democrats voted no, and all 12 Republicans voted yes. That's all you need to know.
Well, here's the mistake Trump made, and by extension, the mistake that we made in evaluating everything. Because Trump got so behind crypto and started to invest in it either directly or indirectly, the Dems then have no choice but to hate it. Because imagine if you vote and your vote results in Donald Trump making more money. Dude, you're going to hear from your constituents. The Dems hate Trump.
Well, maybe the Dems that have half a brain actually do that, and they find themselves moderate, and they actually become Republicans, like we have RFK and some of these other women that made this ship change. It's just crazy to me. Two-party system's broken, guys. I don't like Republicans. I don't like Democrats. Okay? But it's crazy to me that if you have common sense, you can't vote. You can't remain a Democrat. You literally have to cross the aisle and become a Republican. And we saw that this election. RFK Jr. was literally a presidential nomination for the Democratic Party, and now he's on the administration of a Republican president. The same applies for, I'm drawing a blank on her name, black hair with the white strip. A nomination for the Democratic Party to become the president of the United States, and is now working with and for Donald Trump's administration as a Republican. It's crazy that we've got to the point where they can't even, Fetterman, how long is it until Fetterman gets voted out? He's the only one that seems like has a half a brain on the Democratic side. Actually, I don't agree with everything he says, but says some common sense stuff, and when Trump does something good, he gives him a pat on the back. How long till he gets booted out and he becomes a Republican? When's his term up? Because that just seems like what it is. If you're not all the way on the side of lunacy on the left, there is no room for you in the party to be a moderate. You have to cross the aisle and become a Republican. It's crazy.
The silver lining to that, which I agree with everything you said, is that when a party moves to the extreme, one direction or the other, they lose power. There aren't a lot of people in America, certainly not the majority,
just a lot
that want more regulation, more taxes, more money to legal immigrant scammers in Somalia, transgenders on the soccer team, so your daughter team gets her ass kicked every week because there's a boy playing on the other side. That is not popular stuff. That's the thing. And so, and then you look at the demographic changes. A lot of people are leaving the blue states and they're moving to the red states. And that shifts the balance of power because those states then have more representatives in Congress. That's how that works. So, until the Democrats sort of get out of this period of absolute lunacy and far left crazy identity politics and stolen. Nothing's illegal on stolen land. If that's what they're thinking and doing, they ain't winning a lot of elections. At least not the nationwide elections. I don't see how they win the presidency when that's their platform. So long term, hopefully they course correct. But man, a lot of the policies are absolutely insane. Even setting aside the crypto stuff, which shouldn't even be partisan, by the way. But it is because Trump has a small bag.
We got Crypto Durgan in the house saying, great stream. Happy you tuned in. Happy you made that comment there. Shout out to everybody who made the comment. Shout out to everybody who's sitting in silence, watching and stalking. Throw a comment out there. Let us see your name. Become part of the community because the active members and the members that we know the name, when we're winning, you win. We do giveaways. We give you the insights, the alpha. You will make more gains having your name known by us than you will if you just sit there in silence, just so you know that. We're going to be wrapping this up soon. So if you go to Discover Crypto, Bitcoin Ben, Crypto Town Hall, KR, some of these spaces and stuff that are popping up on my feed that are still live, make sure to let them know that Crypto Hitman, Crypto Amaru, and Crypto Paradise sent you, and we'll greatly appreciate that as well.
Nice one. All right, ladies and gents, glad you tuned in today. Glad you survived one of the most historic crashes, top 10 certainly, in all of crypto history. You'll be able to tell your grandkids about this, assuming you didn't sell like a Jeep. And until Monday, guys, we'll see you on the beach.